and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have a new and special guest with us, Peter Ball. Peter is CEO of Red Star Gold, which can be traded as RGC on the TSX Venture and as RGCTF on the OTCQB. Thanks, Peter, for being here with us today.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks a lot. Good morning.
Peter, let's first discuss your background and how you came and became CEO of Red Star Gold.
Yeah, no problem, Jeff. I always consider myself a mining brat. I grew up in the mining industry, a fifth-generation mining kid. My father and uncle and grandfather and everyone else either ran a mining company or got involved in the mining industry. Actually, my uncle ran Homestake Mining out of San Francisco. So I got into the mining industry back in the early 1980s, became a mining engineer, graduated from mining school in 1989, worked at a number of mining companies in Canada as an engineer for about 10 or 11 years in Manitoba, up in the Arctic, in Nunavut, Northwest Territories, for such companies as Sherritt Gordon, Hudson Bay Mining and Smelting, and Echo Bay Mines are a few examples. I eventually got into the corporate side of the world in the middle to late 1990s, where I joined Eldorado Gold as a technical representative and in the business development areas, and eventually, worked in the areas of business development, corporate development. I've had the opportunity to be president and executive chairman of a couple other companies. But I believe one of the reasons I was able to secure the position with Red Star is in the fall of 2015, I received a call from a gentleman, Mr. Jacques Vaillancourt, out of London, England. He is the largest shareholder and executive chairman of Red Star Gold. We had a few conversations over a couple of 3 months, and previously I used to run a company that was a very similar epithermal system in Argentina. And what I was able to do for that company was raise some money, do some drilling, build a resource, complete some metallurgy, complete an engineering study, and find a buyer. And it kind of resembles the model we're looking at Red Star. And I had over the years, I've had the opportunity to work in Peru and French Guyana and Brazil and across Canada. So, and was provided the opportunity January 2016 to join Red Star.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Red Star's Unga project. The Unga project is an epithermal district with a lot of similarities to some other active high-grade gold mines. Maybe you can give us an introduction to these epithermal, low sulfidation epithermal vein systems, some of the great mines that are out there, and what similarities they have to the Unga project that you've commenced drilling on.
Yeah, no problem, Jeff. So first of all, one of the main things that attracted me to the Unga Gold project is there's a number of items, including the institutional holdings, et cetera. We'll get into that later. The Unga Gold project is known as an epithermal intermediate to high sulfidation system. These type of systems, which the Unga Gold project happens to be a district. And when I say district, if you flew up 10,000 feet in a helicopter above the project and looked back down onto the Unga Island, there is numerous gold zones and upwards of 35 to approaching 40 line kilometers of vein systems that we have either drilled, identified, sampled, or discovered on the island. So this project is 240 square kilometers. So when you look at a epithermal system, there's other ones that globally are significant in nature that the Unga project is related to geologically in regards to the age of the rocks, the type of the system, the emplacement of the fluids. Some of them that they are compared to, the Unga project is compared to, is projects such as Cerro Negro. If you don't know Cerro Negro, it was a project run by Andean Resources out of Argentina. I was actually in Argentina just to the east of that project at the same time it was discovered. They had a few veins similar to the Unga project. One hole, one day, changed the face of the project, and it was sold to Goldcorp for $3.5 billion. Another project would be Cerro Moro, which was sold to Yamana many years ago, or Kupol, or El Peñon in Chile, and Kupol's over in Russia. So these projects have the potential to yield significant amounts of ounces, and they're usually associated with, depending on where you are in the system, higher or lower in the system. They usually come up to surface. They're usually narrow or thinner vein systems. They can yield, when you're lower in the system, base metals, and as you approach higher, gold and silver. So what we see is that we are in the intermediate to high sulfidation system, potential with the yielding a significant amounts potential for the discovery or the resource development of gold. So I don't want to get into geology about epithermal systems, but groundwater is very key to the process. When groundwater comes in contact with hot molten rock deep underground, these silicate minerals in the rock are dissolved, and as are the metals in the rock, which are including gold and silver and lead. And of course, the groundwater, which is known as a hydrothermal fluid, enters the spaces such as the cracks and the joints and the faults, and eventually these fluids cool, creates the veins, and the resulting material that is left contains the dissolved metals. And again, most of these epithermal systems are usually contain gold. So there's I don't want to get too technical, but we're seeing all the traits of what the system could yield specifically for gold and silver. And one last comment, to validate our project, last summer, there's two people in the world that are known as global experts in epithermal systems, Dr. Jeff Hedenquist and Dr. Silito. If you ever have a chance on our website, 4 or 5 pages in on the presentation, there's a map, and it's called Epithermal Districts of Global Significance. This is a map created by Dr. Jeff Hedenquist. He came up to site in 2016. We invited him up right away after I joined, just to have him take a look to help us understand the potential. And he wrote a very interesting report where he has done direct comparisons to other epithermal systems around the world. So it's good to see that one of the world's experts has validated the project.
So Peter, you have a 240 square kilometer land package, which is huge, and you just commenced drilling. What are you targeting with this drilling program? What are you trying to accomplish here?
Okay, so just quickly, what I want to ensure the listeners understand today, we're in Alaska. A lot of people think, Peter, you're up in Alaska. Is it cold all year? How do you operate, and how do you even execute a drill program? It must be fairly cold. So on our website, on the very front page, at the bottom of page 1 on the home page, there's a map. So what we were showing here is the Unga Gold Project is actually located at the 55th degree latitude. If you bring a little line and connect Canada, we're further south of Stewart, British Columbia, which I actually used to live in the early 70s. So not only are we south compared to numerous projects in Canada and or Alaska, We have temperate conditions. In other words, we have year-round access. The temperature at Unga Island actually averaged warmer in December and January than it did in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, where Red Star's office is. Two other things. There is a 1 mile long paved airstrip serviced daily from Anchorage directly to sites. There is also a deep sea port at site, and barges from Seattle come up every couple of weeks. So extensive infrastructure. Leading to your question, Jeb, what are we doing? So first of all, I want to make sure that's how we get up there. I can fly to site in less than I can fly to where your office is, Jeb, in Florida. So what we're trying to do in this drill program, there's a lot of history that I should probably talk about, but I won't today. Right now, the quick update is over the last year, we've taken a system on one of the multiple vein systems, which last year was only 300 meters. We expanded it to 1 kilometer. We did some geophysics in April, some mag and IP to understand what's happening under the ground next to the Shumagan vein and along strike or the extension of the Shumagan vein. And again, the Shumagan vein is one of many, many veins on the island. We're focused in prioritizing this vein for now. Last year we did some drilling. We extended it by 250%. We went into geophysics in April. We actually extended it an additional 50% up to 1.6 kilometers from geophysics. The rocks at surface match what we're seeing in the geophysics. So what we did is we stepped back for a couple of weeks, modeled what we found, and we went up there in the middle of May, just commenced the drill program to first of all test a long strike in 100-meter step outs to see how long this vein system gets. We only did geophysics for an additional 600 along strike. We believe this system could actually continue for upwards of 3 or 4 kilometers from the structural analysis and from other experts that came to the island. Additionally, we also found another parallel, what we call parallel footwall vein, directly north or lying right beside Shumagan. So internally, I call it Shumagan 2. So we did some geophysics in April. It lit up a structure. We walked over the next couple of days, and there it was sitting right at surface under the bushes we've never walked on. We found what we call this rhodochrosite brecciated vein. In other words, when we see this type of rock, it usually grades gold. So we found that system. So we'll do some geochem analysis on that. We'll finish the drill program here, the first part or phase 1 of a multi-staged program, identify the southwest extension, remodel it, and then we'll be back up to site later this summer to likely push forward for a full resource development, metallurgy, and do what maybe I did back in the Argentina project, build a resource, complete the metallurgy, and start talking to some interested parties on the potential of a partnership or a strategic investor. And again, we do have just under $6 million in the bank, and we do not owe 1 penny to anybody.
And Peter, as we conclude here, could you highlight the major shareholders?
Absolutely. So the major shareholder in the company is Mr. Jacques Bayancourt out of London, England. He was and led the investment banking and the global precious equities divisions for BMO and HSBC in London for 30 years. He's raised over $30 to $35 billion. He's the executive chairman and holds just under 20%. Eric Sprott out of Toronto, Canada, he is number 2. He came into the company at 10 cents at the end of September 2016. It is one of the first placements that Eric did without a warrant. He liked the project, and he bought just over 10% of the company. The third is Mr. George Ireland out of Boston in the United States. He actually made and was a significant shareholder in the Cerro Negro project I mentioned earlier on. He's a geologist. He saw Cerro Negro, he saw Unga, and he bought a lot of stock. He owns just under 10%. Gold 2000, which is one of the top performing gold funds out of Europe in Zurich, run by Eric Meyer, is our fourth largest shareholder. OD Asset Management out of London, they're a $15 billion fund in London, England, would be ranked number 5. US Global with Ralph Aldis out of the United States of America, one of the top performing precious metal fund managers, owns a significant portion of the company, and Gabelli Gold out of New York. So combined, the institutional ownership of the company is about 61%.
Peter, thank you so much for being here with us today and giving us an introduction to Red Star Gold, which can be traded as RGC on the TSX Venture and RGCTF on the OTCQB.
Thanks, Jeb, and have a wonderful